Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your Chief Security Fanatic here, and today I'm asking the question, do we need a better standard for judging equipment capability than the equipment's spec sheet? Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we're going to be talking about a company called DLink. Now, if you are not familiar with them, they make very basic products like switches, basic routers, a firewall, that kind of thing. And they actually just agreed to some FTC charges and demands to basically implement a quote-unquote comprehensive software security program, literally to settle a Federal Trade Commission charge. And so basically what ended up happening is they exposed customer data to hackers, but in the meantime, while they were doing that, they were advertising top-of-the-line security measures, not only for their company, but for their products. And so DLink is not going to pay any financial penalties as part of this settlement, but its manufacturing processes will have to include threat modeling, tests for security bugs prior to the product's release, ongoing device monitoring to address flaws, automatic firmware updates, and the acceptance of vulnerability reports from researchers. In other words, pretty much what many other major manufacturers are doing. And so this begs the question. I can't tell you how many times I've actually walked in to an organization that has, let's say, a firewall, if we're using the most basic example, a next generation firewall, and on paper, their firewall looks exactly the same as an enterprise level one, 0-day threat, enough performance, et cetera, but they don't do the same thing. One is vastly superior to the other. And then if we're thinking about this even deeper, when we're talking about compliance law, whether it's the United States, European Union, and all of that, we are basically saying you need this category of product in order to be compliant, but not all are built the same. I can literally build a network with poor choices or poorer quality products and still maintain compliance and a level of security that I think is basically becoming very difficult. So we have other standards to look at products. So we can look at research from places like Forrester or Gartner and other places, and I do. But when we are educating the masses, or if we are administering the masses, so if you are, let's say, for example, an IT company that is trying to sell cybersecurity solutions or something like that, I think it really behooves everybody to actually start looking beyond, let's say low-end products or mid-range products and start looking at enterprise-level products, which tend to be, maybe slightly higher in price, but definitely better in detection. And so if we are creating this standard, and we are going, let's say, for the sales process and saying, oh, well, Firewall A has these specs and Firewall B has these specs, but Firewall B is vastly superior, in terms of capability, threat detection, and on and on and on. And pick any product. I'm just using that as an easy example because I see it all the time. I think it really behooves consumers to understand that not everything is built the same, and not every solution being sold, is the same as well. And so that's the question today. How do we fix this? How do we look at this standard? How do we make sure that when one company is selling D-Link and they're comparing it, let's say, to another company that has, let's say, a vastly superior threat defensive capability, that D-Link isn't winning the game, when it comes to this, even though on paper they look exactly the same. So I'm curious to know what you guys think of this. I'm not sitting here, recommending brands or anything like that. we could spend all day arguing that. I'm just simply saying we need to start looking at what we're using and make sure that when we're actually doing a comparison, the spec sheet isn't what we're using, because quite frankly, it's getting us into trouble. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.